In today's video, we'll be talking about the 5-step home buying process and what you should know so that you don't make the same mistakes that a lot of first-time home buyers make. All of that coming right up. What's going on, everybody? Steven here. I'm a top producing residential real estate agent and real estate investor. And if this is your first time to my channel, it has everything to do with buying, selling, renting, and investing in real estate. So if that's something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing by clicking that subscribe button below and that notification bell so that you're notified every single time I post a new video. Now, today's topic is about the 5-step home buying process. But before we dive in, I do want to preface this video by saying that I am a real estate agent in the Miami market. And the reason why that's important is because real estate is hyper-local. The information I'm going to be giving to you today in this video is specific to my market and my neighborhood. So go ahead and consult with your real estate professional in your market just to make sure that everything translates well. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the 5 points and let's move into number 1. Point number 1, getting a pre-approval letter. Now, guys, I know what you're thinking. You guys are saying,
Steven, getting a pre-approval letter is common sense.
But in my experience, common sense isn't always common practice. I really want to drill into the first point because I think it's important and fundamental that buyers obtain this before shopping for any type of real estate if you want to have the success in obtaining any property or maybe the property of your dreams. The biggest reason why you want to have a pre-approval letter is for the fact that you want sellers and real estate agents to take you serious. I get it. It's not as sexy as looking for real estate, but it is a necessary evil that we have to do in order to really get a target set. By that, I mean, we need to know exactly how much you qualify for. Sometimes you qualify for more than you think. Sometimes you qualify for less than you think. Now, there's 2 popular ways in obtaining a pre-approval letter. You can either go the lender route or you can go the mortgage broker route. A lender is a financial institution that's going to lend money to you, the buyer or the borrower, directly, while a mortgage broker acts more as a real estate agent in which they scour the market to get you the best rates and the best programs that lenders have to offer. Once you have a contact with a lender or a mortgage broker, they're basically going to ask you for the same documentation. That documentation is usually your copy of your IDs, your last 30 to 60 days of pay stubs, your last 3 to 6 months of bank statements, and your last 2 years of bank returns, among other documents. And once they're able to obtain all of these documents and run your credit, they'll be able to give you a turnaround time of a pre-approval letter within about 24 to 48 hours. So you got your pre-approval, you're ready to start shopping for real estate. What's the next step? So that leads us into point number 2, which is you want to find a good real estate agent. I'm a real estate agent telling you as a buyer to find a real estate agent. That sounds like a very biased statement, and it is a very biased statement, but it's not without merit. So the point that I'm trying to get at is you want to get a real estate agent to make your life exponentially easier. A real estate agent is going to be able to walk you through the entire process. This person knows the ABCs of real estate. They've been doing this for a while. They've gone through multiple transactions. So they're there for you whenever a question arises, but more importantly, whenever an obstacle or mishap arises, which if you've been in real estate long enough, you're going to realize very shortly that things obviously do occur, and a good real estate agent is going to be able to navigate through those obstacles and get you to the closing table, which ultimately is where you want to be with keys in hand, ready to enjoy your property. A pro tip I wanted to give you is utilize a real estate agent who's a specialist in the area of real estate that you're looking to obtain. If you're a renter looking to obtain your next rental property, utilize a real estate agent who is a rental specialist. If you're a seller looking to sell your property, then utilize a listing specialist. In this case, you're a buyer, so you want to utilize a buyer specialist, somebody who specializes in first-time home buyers or maybe just buyers in general. They have a big pool of buyers, and this is what they do on a day-to-day basis. Make sure you screen your real estate agent. Make sure they're a specialist in the type of real estate area that you're looking for, but also make sure that they are a specialist in the neighborhood that you're looking for, because not only are they going to have a better idea of the neighborhood and they'll be able to answer a lot of questions such as school districts, such as different places of interest, but they may also have a lot of off-market properties that they can showcase to you. The last thing I want to share with you as to why you should utilize a real estate agent to represent you on the purchase of your home is because depending on the market that you're in, this may be to no cost to you. In many markets, such as the South Florida market and my market, this cost or the commission is actually paid for by the seller. So all the knowledge and expertise and know-how that a real estate agent comes with is really not on your dime. And with that being said, that wraps up our number 2 point, which is finding a good real estate agent. And it leads us into the next point. Step number 3. Sending offers and negotiating offers. But before we get into the points of the contract and exactly what you need to know about that, we need to have a couple items ready at our disposal to send along with the offer. Those items are usually your copy of your ID and your pre-approval letter that from step 1, your real estate agent already has ready for you. And for my cash buyers, I haven't forgot about you. At this point, you would be also submitting your proof of funds, which is usually a snapshot or a bank statement of the amount of money that you have ready disposable to purchase the property. So your real estate agent is going to draft up the offer. Now your next question is probably going to be, well, what do I send as an offer price? As a buyer, we're very concerned about price. Now this is where I would say you want to submit a formal offer and not a verbal offer. A lot of buyers like to submit what's called verbal offers. They like to tell their real estate agent to call the listing agent or call the seller and tell them, hey, I'm interested in sending an offer at this price point. Would you be willing to entertain it? Now, I don't recommend doing this because sellers and buyers take 2 different things into account. Buyers usually take price as the primary factor for their decision-making process, and sellers factor in many more things. I mean, obviously price is a big factor of it, but they also take into consideration the time of closing, the type of financing, the amount of money in escrow, the title company, where closing's at, who's paying closing costs. So a lot of these items are outlined in the contract. And that's why verbal offers, I don't recommend them because they tell a very small story as to the overall scope of the offer. So for that reason alone, you want to send a formal offer. So I would recommend that you as a buyer have your real estate agent draft up the last recent comparable sales in the last 6 months of that neighborhood, or if you're buying in a condo, in that building. And the reason why you want to do this is because this is going to tell you the market value of the subject property that you're placing an offer on. It's important to know what that market value is because, for example, if you're sending an offer on a property that's $500,000, but the properties in that neighborhood in the last 6 months have sold for $600,000, then you may not want to negotiate any further. But on the flip side, if you're about to send an offer for $500,000 and the properties in that neighborhood within the last 6 months have only sold for $450,000, you may be overpaying by $50,000. This is important to know, and it gives you a good guide as to what your starting offer should be. And with that being said, once you send the offer and the seller accepts and executes, that brings us into the next step. Step number 4, the contract. So all the documents have been signed and delivered and sent back to you, and you, my friend, are officially under contract. So first and foremost, congratulations. What a contract basically means is that it has a series of dates from the time that it's been executed to the time that you get to the closing table. Within those series of dates, there's certain action items that you as a buyer and your real estate team need to complete in order to secure closing. Now, I could do an entire overview of the contract and what each step actually signifies and go into further detail, but because of the length of this video already, I'm just gonna give you a brief overview as to what you should keep in mind and what you should look out for. The first thing that you need to keep in mind is the executed date. The executed date is important because this is the date that kicks off the entire timeline of the contract. The next deadline within the contract that you want to take into account is the mortgage application. Remember, you're obtaining financing, and up until this point, you've only gotten a pre-approval letter. So as soon as you have an executed contract, you're going to submit your mortgage application with your lender. After your mortgage application has been submitted, now you have your escrow deposit. The escrow deposit is just another fancy way of saying your good faith deposit to showcase to the seller you have every intention of moving forward with the deal and that you're going to do everything possible in order to close. This escrow deposit is held by the title company. The title company is usually the closing agent who prepares the closing documents, and also they run the title search and the lien search to make sure that the property is within good standing and has good, clean, and marketable title. In the state of Florida, the buyer chooses a title company, so you'll be able to get the wire information instructions from your real estate agent or the title company itself to submit the first escrow deposit. Once the escrow deposit has been submitted, we now go into probably what's the most important deadline of them all within the contract, aside from the closing, of course, and that is the inspection deadline. Now, your inspection period is important because this is the allotted amount of time that you as a buyer are going to have to hire a third-party inspector to go ahead and review the condition of the property. You only have an inspection period, let's say for 10 to 15 days. Within those 10 to 15 days, you must have that person go and inspect the property. And if for any reason you do not like the condition of the property, then you can cancel the contract and get your escrow money deposit back from the title company. It's important to have this date highlighted because once this date passes, your money in escrow goes hard and you will not be able to cancel the contract without any penalty. And by that, I mean you lose your money and you forfeit your money to the seller that's in escrow. Once the inspection has passed and you as the buyer are satisfied with the condition of the property after the inspection report, then at that point, the appraisal will take place. The appraisal is what the lender orders to determine the value of the property. In layman's terms, if you have a property under contract for $500,000 and the bank gets the appraisal report and the appraisal report determines that the value of the property is $480,000, then you have a $20,000 discrepancy. That discrepancy is not going to be paid for by the bank. So either you, the buyer, need to come up with the $20,000 difference, the seller needs to come down $20,000, or a combination of both need to take place. Either way, in order to close the deal and move forward, someone's coming out of pocket and it's not going to be the bank. One of the last things that you need is your loan approval. Now, your loan approval started when you submitted the mortgage application back when the contract was first executed. At this point, the lender should have already gotten the appraisal, reviewed you as a borrower, determined all verification for you and your credit worthiness in order to obtain the loan, and at this point, they should issue a approval letter. This approval letter is going to determine or dictate to you and the seller that everything is a go and you guys are ready to sign at the closing table, and the money is going to be wired from the bank to the title company. So now this brings us to the last and final step, which is the closing. Now, before you get to the closing table, there's probably a last couple things that you want to get done to make sure that everything is above board and in good order. Number one, you want to get a closing statement that's going to be sent to you by the title company. And this closing statement is going to itemize the cost to you as a buyer and highlight the amount of money that you're going to need to bring or wire to the closing company come time of closing. And it's also going to itemize the cost to the seller as to what they're paying and all the prorations that take place when purchasing a property. One last thing prior to closing is to actually conduct the final walkthrough. Now, the final walkthrough is usually initiated by your real estate agent, but it's an inspection that is done at the property right before closing. Remember, up until this point, it's been about 20 to 30 days since you've seen the property, and you just want to make sure that it's in the same condition as it was since the last time you saw it. The last and final item that you want to confirm is that the title company is in possession of the keys of the property. That way, once you sign your closing documents, title is transferred and you could go ahead and receive a copy of the keys, and you're well on your way of owning your brand new property. There you have it, guys. That's the 5-step home buying process. And if you found a lot of value from the information that I provided, then again, please consider subscribing by clicking the subscribe button below. And before I sign off, I do want to leave you guys off with this. How was your first time home buying experience? Any information and feedback that you can share with us would be greatly appreciated. Leave a comment below so we can interact, and maybe from that information, I'll be able to curate more future videos to the content that you guys want to watch. So with that being said, thank you all for joining me. I appreciate all of you being here. And until then, I will see you in my next video.